see how the glue joints came out. Got my scraper and everything all prepped up, so we'll just go ahead and peel off the clamps and see how it looks. Now, I should make a note that I ended up using these hand screw clamps, or the wood clamps, to keep the swivel part of the other clamps in location. The way that this was set up is actually really hard to clamp it up and get it to hold tight. Across the joints, there had been some warpage and shifting of the wood over time, so this should be a pretty good improvement. Glue joints all feel really good. We'll go ahead and scrape that urethane off of there. And, probably keep our clamps handy because we've got some other components that are going to need to be fixed. But overall, yeah, really happy with the outcome here. This is going to be an excellent repair. Now we're just kind of scraping off all of the excess glue, and this isn't hurting anything either. It's also taking some of the old finish off, which we're going to do anyway. So overall, the joint is really well fared, and that's probably the primary reason why I used the biscuits for joinery like this. Is that without the biscuit in place, especially over a length like this, it's really difficult to go through and keep the joint fair and get the kind of result that we're looking for here. And that also, you know, honestly, the drafting table probably doesn't care whether or not this particular joint is fair, but what does care is the sanding I'm going to do so I can apply a finish, and the visuals of the drafting table showing this as, you know, a reasonably well jointed board. Luckily for me, the joint itself was actually pretty well made initially. It was nice and tight, and all I had to do was remove the glue that was there prior and go ahead and add the urethane glue that I'm using here. And this, I'm going to use the corner scraper portion of this tool. I guess I'll show this too. This is a, let's see here. Let's see if I can get a good shot of it. This is a Baco 625. It's made in Sweden. And it comes with a number of interchangeable blades, but I'm not going to lie, I don't even know where the other blades went. I think it had a teardrop blade, and I can't remember what the third blade was, but I've only ever used a triangle blade. This tool's awesome. I use it all the time. Anytime I'm dealing with urethane glue, I reach for this. With that. So at this point we're going to brush everything off, vacuum the surface so that all of the free dust is out of the pores. Going to go ahead and get our stain, and we are going to go ahead and get this piece stained up and drying, so we can move on to the next piece. And there we go, that piece is done and drying. We'll let that sit for 10 to 15, 20 minutes. I have to look at the instructions here. The interior median board for the top two drawers and the back board are done as far as the sanding and staining goes. Now I'm probably going to go through and do a urethane finish on top of these. So that'll be 2 to 3 coats of urethane with 4-hour drying times and light sanding between coats. So probably do 2 coats. I've got an exterior urethane that's UV resistant that I'm probably going to use. I expect that'll probably hold up the best, but overall I'm very happy with how this has turned out. At this point of the project, this is where we're at. The backboard, the front board, and the 2 lower leg runners, as well as the intermediate drawer separator board, have all been completed, sanded back, and refinished. And I think that they look pretty darn good, considering that this thing is 50, 60 years old. I think the refinishing has come along really nicely. I'm really happy with the glue job on the wide backer board. That's looking absolutely great, and really excited about this. So I've just noticed here. Let's see if I can get a decent shot of it. Maybe this one will show up better. Just notice here there's a little wooden plug or peg in the leg riser, and there's kind of the same thing up at the top. Looks like they use some steel pins with filler to hold those together, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I'm gonna mess with that. I think what I'm gonna do, for the purposes of what we're doing here, is I'm going to see if I can get this piece off. That'll just make everything a lot easier to refinish. But this is a separate part, and then we are gonna see, especially on this one, and I guess the other, there's definitely some splitting of the boards, so we're gonna just kind of check that, see if we can get those to separate and re-glue them. I think that'll be a good thing to do, and then we can run through and sand this all nice and smooth. So we'll give that a crack, see how successful we are with that, and then go from there. If it ends up being that we have to live with that because it's too well held together, then we're not going to worry about it too much. Feeling like that's on there pretty good. Okay, it wasn't so bad to split off. We'll see if we can do the other side too, and then we'll be able to reglue those joints, and this thing will immediately look a lot better. Might have to glue these one at a time, in all honesty, and I'll probably do something like 1, 2, 3, 4 biscuits on that, and the way that it splits off, there's a hollow or a cutout section over here, so we'll go through and touch all that up. Looks like we've got a crack forming through the corner right here, so we'll see about re-gluing that as well. We'll just fill that with glue, probably wood glue underneath, and glue that tightly to fix that crack. Looks like we got just a littlest bit of splitting from the other piece where it was very thin, so that's okay, not a big deal there. Yeah, there it is, fell off. We might even be able to glue that back in. We'll leave that there for right now. But yeah, the glue is definitely smoked, so we'll go through, give that a touch with the sander, make sure the glue is going to stick, and we will be able to get this back together nicely. So real happy with that. Alright, let's give this other side a try. This one might be held a little bit better, but we'll see. Okay, disaster. Well, not really. Just here. Let's see if I can get a decent shot of it. Maybe this one will show up better. Just notice here, there's a little wooden plug or peg in the leg riser. And there's kind of the same thing up at the top. Looks like they use some steel pins with filler to hold those together. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I'm gonna mess with that. I think what I'm gonna do, for the purposes of what we're doing here, is I'm going to see if I can get this piece off. That'll just make everything a lot easier to refinish. But this is a separate part. And then we are going to see, especially on this one, and I guess the other, there's definitely some splitting of the boards. So we're going to just kind of check that, see if we can get those to separate and re-glue them. I think that'll be a good thing to do. And then we can run through and sand this all nice and smooth. So we'll give that a crack, see how successful we are with that, and then go from there. If it ends up being that we have to live with that because it's too well held together, then we're not going to worry about it too much. I don't know, I'm feeling like that's on there pretty good. Okay, disaster. It's not really disaster. What we're going to do is reach down in there and pull out as many of the little slivers as we can. And what we're going to do is grab a syringe, fill it with woodworker's glue or wood glue, the kind of yellowish looking stuff. I use the Gorilla Glue style. And we're going to fill that joint as much as we can, then we're going to glue it back together. Looks like the joint had only failed part way down here, and the rest of this joint's actually quite good all the way up. Same on the other side. So we'll fill this with white glue, we'll glue it back together, and that'll be a really good stable repair. I don't think there's need to do anything more. The table's going to be in basically an air-conditioned environment for the rest of the period of time that I own it. So I don't think I'm going to put a healthy dose of glue right down in there. That should be good. More than enough to fill everything for sure. And this in there like that. And it's already squeezing out the tip. There we are, so hopefully y'all can see that really well. So we're sticking the needle in these cracks, and then we're just forcing the glue in, squeezing out as much as we can. There's a fair bit of wastage with this, but it's important to note that the goal here is absolutely to fill as much of the void with glue as we can and get the maximum surface area under glue as possible. And that's really the goal, and I think we're achieving that quite well with this, with how deep we can get in there with this. There's probably better applicators in this, but this is kind of what's available readily, easily in my neck of the woods, so this is kind of what I use. And we're expecting to get a fair bit of glue squeeze out here when we're done, but this should be really good. Kind of like this, placing it along the edge, so that'll droop down all the way. And then over here in this area, we're just going to see if we can't use the tip of this needle to kind of apply into the crack like so. There we go. It's all pretty good. Go ahead and open this up, see what happens. See down here at the end, we've got the area here where we had our wedge. There we go. That's getting some really good squeeze out there. Like that. That's good stuff. And now we're just going to kind of go through and wipe off the extra glue. I think that's a perfect repair. Right up. You can see that the little spliver here is not actually quite attached. So what we're going to do is, in order to make sure that that bonds up well, just going to go ahead and toss another clamp on it. And that'll keep everything honest. And you can see the glue squeezing out there, so that's perfect. Screw's a little bit bent, we'll have to kind of straighten that up. But the nice thing is, even though the hand wheel is the wrong one, the actual casting is there. The table adjustment casting is there. So we should be able to remake a nice knob for this and get that, you know, working totally ship shape. But really cool old screw. It's not rolled. It's machined on a screw turning machine, which that's just fascinating to me. This thing is pretty ancient for sure. that's that joint all biscuit jointed now. Super happy with the amount of surface area we're going to gain by that. Should keep that on us for the rest of its life. We're not really looking to remove wood here. We're looking to remove glue and rough up the surface. So now we're just gonna wet down the surface a little bit so that we can activate the urethane glue. Should work well. There we go. Just like that. Same on the other surface. And then what we're gonna go ahead and do is we'll put glue inside all of the biscuit holes and on one of the surfaces, and we'll wet down the biscuits, and that should result in a pretty good glue spread all over the joint and let us get a really good bond with this. We'll set this like this. There we go. We're not the new Yankee workshop here, so unfortunately, you know, we just kind of smear the glue all over the place for all of our joints. Just making sure that there's going to be enough to squeeze out evenly and coat the surface as best we can. Man, that knob is annoying. There we go. Maybe it'll stay out of my way now. Here we're just going to moisten both surfaces of the biscuit and then jam it in on this side, and we'll do that for all of the biscuits in the joint. Right, it is another wonderful day out here, and we are going to get rolling on our project. This has been gluing up for, well, a few days now, probably longer than it needed to. We're going to go ahead and get it pulled apart and scrape all the glue off, and then start sanding this sucker down, ready for staining. Glue up quite as well as I might have liked. I'll zoom in here, and what's happened is I probably didn't have enough clamping pressure along the joint, and the expansiveness of the urethane led to some opening of the joint. Now, I've already made the decision here that we're just going to live with that. So, just like the other unit that we did, we're going to go ahead and strip the hardware off this thing before we go much further. There we go. Nice little casting and knob. We'll have to replicate this or kind of try and facsimilate it on the other side, but got some black plastic that'll be a good candidate for that. And we'll pop the rail off for the drawer slides. We're not going to do anything about that. We're just going to kind of refinish it. Acceptable. There we go. Pop that off. Get these out. Put them on the other ones. Set this here. We'll have to sand and finish here to protect. Because keeping in mind how old this is, fire up the vacuum and get everything all dust free, because we're going to be applying a stain and we don't want any dust in the system as we go through and do everything. Consider that a win. That's looking pretty good. I'll just set that aside to dry. I am happy with that. So now we're just going to come in and do the other rail. And I'm keeping them separated so that they go back on the stanchion they were removed from. No sense in making life harder than it needs to be here. Very nice. It's official. Both end stanchions are now stained and curing. Very pleased with how they look. And I've got all of the rails stained up over here. They're already all cured. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to wait a couple of hours probably, maybe a little bit longer, 2 to 4 hours, something like that. And then we're going to come back, and with the help of my kids who should be back from their classes by then, we're going to go ahead and do a dry fit of the table. We're going to take a picture of that, and we're going to send it to the guy who gave it to us. So it turns out, as a development, that the gentleman who gave this to me for my use, and resurrection, I guess is the best term here, because we're not really restoring it. We're bringing it back to life in the best way that we can, but he has informed me that he's got a sheet of plywood that he thinks would make a pretty good replacement for the top. He's clearing out his garage from some renovation projects. Apparently the plywood was used in the cabinetry, and I think it's honestly going to be a better solution to use that than to reuse this thin sheet of 1/4 inch, looks like interior finished plywood. So we'll see if we can't be successful in scoring that bit of material, and that will allow us to finish the top of the main drafting table nicely, and that'll be, you know, phase 2 of the project complete. So pretty happy with how that's turned out. I think it looks great across the board. As far as the project goes, I'm really happy with how it's taken the stain and how it all looks and how it's turning out and how the oak is taken on the grain shapes on this. It's a really rock solid table, and I'm very, very pleased. So
Tell you what, this is a ginormous table.
well, it is actually, it's a full-size legitimate drafting table. I mean, that's to be expected.
Well, if I'm ever gonna get an upgrade from that tiny table in Warhammer, I might as well just do it.
They're a little bit tight because it's not bolted together properly. We'll have to make some adjustments, but look at all the drawer space. This is a really nice drafting
This is
table.
my drawer.
And the price was perfect. It was free. problem. It's pretty obvious to see. The top sits proud by quite a bit, actually. And this is fundamentally because the original top would have been about 1/4 inch thick, and the top that we have is actually quite a bit thicker. Now, the lovely part is, we're going to hop under here, is that there's really nothing for it to interfere with underneath at all. Like, we're in the clear as far as things that are going to be under here. All of the drawers have to clear this sill, and we're way below that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up the router table with a rabbiting bit, step bit, whatever we want to call it. And we are going to remove some material from here, and we're going to make this much better. Nice thing about this router table is that the edge is graduated all the way along. So if I want to make a 3/8 cut or a 1 inch cut or a 1.5 inch cut, I just set this to 0 and away I go. Easy peasy. Well, I'm pretty happy with that. officially the next day, and the tabletop, the rails, and the intermediate stanchion have all dried and cured their second coat of urethane. And we're going to need to go through and sand the 2 stanchions in the back rail and put the second coat of urethane on that. There we go, that might do it. Unfortunately, this particular little hole right here in the front, where there is only one screw, that takes this screw, is stripped right out of the joint. So we're going to have to go through and fix that. What I did is went through and picked up a pair of dowels at the woodcraft store, and this one is oak. There we go. And this one is walnut. That's really nice, some nice hardwood dowels. We're going to use a piece of the oak one, and we're going to fix the broken out board. We're going to use drill it out, glue it in, get the center hole drilled out, take the screw, and that will complete the repair. And then by the time the glue dries, we'll be able to go through and assemble the table, and we won't have to worry about that stripped out screw joint. In line with the hole. So we're over here on the bandsaw. We're just gonna take this screw. Oops, a daisy. Difficult to do this with one hand. Gonna take the screw. And we're gonna set our height. And I've kind of changed my mind. We're gonna do a flush cut, so I'm gonna leave it a little proud. And we'll run this down just like that. Bring it. Tighten up the vise there, and we'll just zip this off. There we go. Now we're just going to run over the belt sander, touch up that burr. Good. Just slide it in there nicely. Yep, that is good stuff right there. And since this is a hardwood, we're going to do our best to wet both surfaces that we're gluing. We're going to do that by jamming some of this moistened towel paper down in the hole. Just like that. Very good. And then, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. That's going to be great. We'll go ahead and put some urethane right around, just a small amount around the inside of the ledge here. We're just trying to spread it a little bit, just like that. And then we'll put some here to kind of get dragged down. We'll smooth that out over the surface. There we go. Then we'll just tap that home. Perfect. Okay. And then we're going to use our flush cut saw. There we go. And the last step is to go ahead and drill a hole for this screw. We're going to do that by taking a measurement and then boring the hole to get maximum thread engagement while not having too much friction. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to take a pair of dial calipers. We're going to measure the diameter of the shank in between the threads. Kind of like that. And we see that that's 0.185. So 0.1875 sounds like a regular decimal point number, and that's probably going to be the size of drill that we use. So we're just going to set this down here, and we're going to go find 0.1875 in the drill set. So if I look up here on the wall, 0.1875 right here is 3/16. So we'll grab a 3/16 bit and we will be good to rock. There we go. And then we're just going to visually confirm that against the screw. Yes, that does in fact look like a really good match. So, hit a bit of a snag, unfortunately. When I did all the test fitting of the tabletop, I did not have the front rail installed. And consequently, if we slide the tabletop back a little bit, we can see the top rail is sitting at the same level as the inset. And now I'm in a position where that's not going to fly for the current tabletop. And so I've got two choices here. I can modify the tabletop. Don't do that, Justin. Or I can modify the top of the rail. And I'm probably going to go ahead and bust out my plunge router and modify the bottom of the tabletop. We'll set it up here, we'll mark it, and we will go ahead and get that done immediately here so that we can carry on and finish off the installation of the table.